In a time before memory, when the world was still learning its own rules, there was a famine so devastating that a single grain of corn was worth more than gold. Animals wandered the cracked earth, hollow-eyed and desperate. And in the middle of all this suffering was Spider. Now, Spider was not like the others. Where others grieved, Spider schemed. Where others starved, Spider planned. One morning, deep in the dying forest, Spider stumbled upon something extraordinary. The carcass of a dead antelope, fresh, untouched, enough meat to feed his family for weeks. But Spider knew the danger. In a time of famine, a man carrying meat is a man inviting war. So he did what Spider always does. He was clever about it. He wrapped the antelope tightly in a long mat, bound it from end to end, hoisted it onto his head, and began the journey home. And as he walked, he wept loudly, bitterly, telling every soul he passed that the bundle on his head was the body of his beloved grandfather, taken too soon by the merciless famine, and the village folk believed him. They bowed their heads, they offered their condolences, they let him pass, but not everyone was fooled. Wolf and Leopard, two of the sharpest minds in the land, watched Spider from a distance. They had known him too long, trusted him too little. Something about that bundle, something about those tears didn't sit right. So they did what hunters do. They took the shortcut. They raced ahead through the bush, found a tall tree along Spider's path, hid themselves deep in its shadow, and waited. The moment Spider passed beneath them, they shook the branches with terrifying force and unleashed the most horrifying sounds the forest had ever heard. Spider screamed. He dropped everything, and he ran, faster than he had ever run in his life, disappearing into the trees without looking back. Wolf and Leopard climbed down, unwrapped the bundle, and burst into laughter. Antelope, beautiful, plentiful antelope. They carried it home and began preparing the finest meal of the season. But Spider, once his heart stopped pounding, began to think. He knew exactly who had been behind that tree, and Spider never forgot. He filed the teeth of a small lizard to razor-sharp points. Then he sent the lizard, disguised as a friendly neighbor, to borrow fire from Wolf and Leopard's home. And when they marveled at Lizard's gleaming teeth and asked where he had them done, Lizard smiled and said simply, "Filing Spider did it for me." The trap was set. Wolf and Leopard, vain and hungry for sharper teeth to crack bones with, walked straight into Spider's home. Spider smiled warmly, told them the process required hanging them from a tree first, and before they knew what had happened, they were dangling helplessly in the air. Spider called his whole family. He brought back the antelope from their home. He laid out a magnificent feast directly in front of the two suspended animals, and the entire village came to eat, laugh, and point. But this story does not end with Spider's victory. A family of white ants passed by the next morning. Leopard, humiliated and exhausted, begged them for help. The ants gnawed through the tree, set them free, and Leopard promised them a great feast in return. Spider, of course, had been listening. On the appointed day, he dressed his children in the ants' colors, taught them the ants' song, and sent them marching to Wolf and Leopard's home, singing perfectly in chorus. The hosts welcomed them, fed them, celebrated them. When the real ants arrived shortly after, Wolf and Leopard, thinking this was yet another one of Spider's tricks, poured boiling water over them. Every ant perished except one, the father. White Ant crawled home, broken and burning with rage, and in that moment of grief, he made a vow that echoes to this very day. He would help no one, he would trust no one, and he would spend the rest of his days destroying the property of man, the creature whose world had allowed such treachery to exist. And that is why, from that day to this, white ants have been a perfect pest to man, because once, a very long time ago, kindness was punished, and the price of that injustice is still being paid.